when there's like this massive understanding of what's really happening, and people go, wait a second, how come we just don't do something and change it on our own? When that moment happens, that will be the conscious pop revolution. And I say con pop means just popular, and con being conscious and aware of what they're doing. So I believe that's the future. I think the next 10 years of music will go towards that. And I can already tell you that there is a market for it for musicians who feel that way. It's not Christian. It's not religious. It's not that. This is people who are just thinking a little bit more in depth about their music. If you go back to old school hip hop, a lot of it was conscious. It was talking about situations that were trying to better their communities and stuff. Like it was a different thing. So I believe over the next 10 years, people are going to become very conscious and aware of that because you're going to look out in the world and you're going to realize, why are so many people doing X? And then if you could say, well, it's connected to the kind of music they listen to and the kind of foods they eat and the kind of media they ingest and their environment, you'll say, well, it would make more sense if we changed one of those pieces and we'll get a different outcome. Different income gives us a different outcome. And so conscious music, I believe, is artists who start to think about, what am I actually putting into the words of my songs? What am I actually doing with the frequencies in my beat? Am I helping or hurting my public? Because if you took music, which is a form of magic, that's what it is. It's an energy form that can connect people from all around the world, no matter what their age is, can take people who could be in Alzheimer's states and they can remember their childhood from a song. Music's like a transportation method as far as like a timeline jump, but also it can heal you. And there's many studies that are coming out about the power of frequency. I believe in the next 10 years, artists will have albums in different frequencies. You'll have albums in 440, but then you have an album in 432. It'll say if your fans want something that's helping with depression, here's the frequency that's best for that, for your album to be tuned to. So as we become more conscious with our food, as we become more conscious of the things we put inside our eyes, like I don't watch gory films anymore. When I was a kid, I used to watch horror films. I thought that was cool. Now, even those images, I'm just like, oh, I don't want it. I don't want it in my brain. I don't need it. On the radio, when I get in my car, and it's because I have a lot of conscious music because we work on building it. When I put on the radio station when my car first pops on, whatever the hot 97 or hot whatever, the frequencies are so jarring to my ear now that I actually have to shut it off with like a passion. It's a fast, like, get that thing off because I can feel the crunchiness and how it's affecting me because now my ears have been recalibrated for something that's actually aligned with my body from doing so much conscious music. So everything down to helping artists and helping the industry create music that is more in line, almost like if you're going to Whole Foods, it feels good for you. It's organic for you. It makes you a better person because you're inputting something that actually has been thought about and outputting something into the world that actually you're be proud of and be valiant with. I think we're losing nobleness, we're losing valiancy, we're losing these things that actually should be really good for society. And a lot of it comes down to the music and what's in front of us in the media. And we're rewarding destruction, but then we're shocked when it happens all around us. So I think at a certain point, the noblesmen, the valiant people will come forward and go, wait a second, why are we doing this? And why are we letting other people control how our society is run when these people really don't care what gets in front of the kids or gets in front of our eyeballs? Like they don't care. They just want to make money and make shock. Why don't we just stop listening or stop buying? And when that real thing happens of like, why are we watching all these videos about the devil? That's weird. There's like 10 pop artists who all have devil in their video this year. Why? Why have so many hip hop artists died over the last 3 years? Why is there so many people getting shot and so many drug overdoses? And how come no one other industry is talking about it? No one's worried about 250 country artists dying. No one's worried about 250 pop artists dying. But in hip hop, all of a sudden it's happening and no one's talking about it in the news. When there's like this massive understanding of what's really happening, and people go, wait a second, how come we just don't do something and change it on our own? When that moment happens, that will be the conscious pop revolution. And I say con pop means just popular, and con being conscious and aware of what they're doing. So I believe that's the future. I think the next 10 years of music will go towards that. And I can already tell you that there is a market for it for musicians who feel that way. It's not Christian. It's not religious. It's not that. This is people who are just thinking a little bit more in depth about their music. If you go back to old school hip hop, a lot of it was conscious. It was talking about situations that were trying to better their communities and stuff. Like it was a different thing. So next 10 years, there'll be a change also because, and we'll get into this later, there'll be the ability for artists to not have to compete so hard with mainstream artists. Indie artists won't have to do so much work because of AI. See, right now it's really hard. So I've met artists, for instance, and I'll give you this little backstory and we can move on to the next question. But I've had artists who have sent me songs and they are so just like shoot this and taking Molly and smacking ass and drop the things and it was just all of it, right? And then we talked for 2 hours and I said, just out of curiosity, like, why do you is this the life you live? And like, do you want to continue this life? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like, then why are you writing about it? And they're like, well, because that's what the fans like. And I was like, okay, well, you're trying to appease a group of people that you don't even really know. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm doing it for money. Okay. Well, what if I can tell you can make money with talking about what you really want to talk about, though? And if you look at Andre 3000's new album, I don't know if you've heard of it, but the one of the songs is like, I swear I really tried to make a hip hop album. And it's like conscious music. So what happens is when people realize that they can make money doing the thing that they actually love to do, everything changes. And that's a new element that will be coming in where you don't have to compete with the major labels and try to shock jock because there'll be AI that can find a demographic that actually connects to what you're saying and what you believe in and what you stand for, which is different. And that hasn't been around before. Everyone's been competing with eyeballs. So you're like, I got to be more shocking than him or her because they have the eyeballs. When the eyeballs change, the money changes because where your eyes go is where your attention goes. And I'm letting you know I have a bunch of friends now who are working in this field and the money is going that way. There's a lot of fans who are like, oh, I don't want to keep watching this. I'm tired of it. My receptors are numbed out on it. But this other thing over here, this is making me feel good. And wherever people feel good, that's where they spend money.
So, what do you think the catalyst is going to be to really, shift this way? Is it going to be the major label artists going in this direction, or is it going to be a groundswell of an independent artist movement?
Independent artists. I think independent artists always change the story. I mean, whenever a new sound comes into the mainframe, it wasn't started by a major label artist. Like when trap came out, it wasn't because big artists were doing it. It was like underground. People were putting it out on SoundCloud and it was kind of moving. When dubstep came out, it was underground. People started using it in pop songs, but it started off like underground. Whenever there's a movement that's underground and then starts to build, if you think of the concept, it's building up, it hits the ground surface, and then it pops through once it gets sunlight. The sunlight is usually money. So it's underground, then it pops through, then all of a sudden it gets sunlight, and then people know about it. So I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a movement of people, which it's already starting. Like there's already concerts, it's happening, but it's happening in a scale like, for instance, I have friends just last week, they performed, in theory, a lot of people don't know them, but they sell to a 1,500 seater. 1,500 seater sold out for a band that not a lot of people know about, but they're a conscious band is a big deal because that means they are making enough of a impact in their area that people are coming to concerts. I have another friend who usually has about 3,000 seaters per show. That is decent enough to say, okay, listen, if this is starting, what happens in 10 years? I can see artists across the board having 3,000, 5,000, because there's some artists right now who are on the radio and they can't pack 3,000 people. So yeah, I think it's starting. It's just it'll happen more as people start to hear about it and start to hear about frequencies and start to hear about these things and get interested into them.